You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts Uncle Mike Tosaw from St. Charles Wealth Management, Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian from OptionPit.com, Andrew the Rock Lobster, Joe Benazzi from OptionPit.com, and Henry the Flowmaster Schwartz from Cboe. The Option Block is brought to you by Cboe. Cboe's suite of S&P 500 index options, SPX and mini S&P 500 XSP options, allows traders to speculate on the direction of the market, generate income, and hedge for downside protection of their portfolio of stocks. No matter what kind of trader you are, there's plenty of useful information to take the guesswork out of creating your portfolio strategy and to help you make more educated moves in the market. Visit www.cboe.com/SPX today to learn more. The views expressed herein are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of Cboe Global Markets Incorporated or any of its subsidiaries, collectively Cboe. The information provided is for general education and information purposes only. There are important risks associated with transacting in any of the Cboe products or any of the digital assets discussed here. Before engaging in any transactions in those products or digital assets, it is important for market participants to carefully review the disclosures and disclaimers contained at www.cboe.com/US_disclaimers. These products and digital assets are complex and are suitable only for sophisticated market participants. These products involve the risk of loss, which can be substantial and, depending on the type of product, can exceed the amount of money deposited in establishing the position. Market participants should put at risk only funds they can afford to lose without affecting their lifestyle. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back once again. Time for everyone's favorite bi-weekly source for all things options related. Yes, it is time once again for the Option Block, what the cool kids call the old OB. My name, of course, Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as from the network upon which all of you folks are binging. Speaking of binging, a lot of you folks were binging the heck out of our volatility death match that took place earlier this week. It was wild. Dr. Vix picked himself a fight with Vixologist over all things vol. Two men entered. Only one emerged victorious. It took place on our pro. Our pro members were the ultimate arbiters. They were the judges. They determined the victor. And yes, there was a victor. Both men entered super pumped. One left suitably chastened. Who was that? Beaten and bloody. Well, you got to tune in to find out. The optionsinsider.com/pro is where you can find that, as well as 400 plus other great, awesome shows, live streams, giveaways, all sorts of good stuff. Options oddities coming up after Vol Views tomorrow. A whole bunch of fun. But if you missed that volatility deathmatch, dare I say it, a piece of content unlike any other that you have ever heard. I don't think it's ever been done before. Maybe it will never be done again, even though I see a lot of people looking at that idea saying that's a cool idea. So, hey, we did it first. So check it out. Volatility Deathmatch, theoptionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go to learn more. As you learn who's joining us on the old program today. Let's go out to the hinterlands of Chi-Town first, where we are joined once again by the uncleest of Mikes, Mr. Uncle Mike Tosaw from St. Charles Wealth Management. Uncle Mike, welcome back to the show, sir.
Always a pleasure to be here, and I got to listen to that Volatility Deathmatch. That sounds intriguing.
Intriguing, to put it mildly, sir. It was good stuff. It was good stuff. You know, whenever Dr. Vix gets hot and bothered and he picks a fight in the vol space, then, good things will come from it, mostly for the listeners at the end of the day. And then joining us on the old program, a person who was invoked not once, but twice on the network this week. Once on the aforementioned Volatility Deathmatch. One of the participants said he might like to deathmatch this person next. It is the Flowmaster, Mr. Henry Schwartz from Cboe. So first off, what do you say to that, Mr. Flowmaster? You may or may not have been challenged to a Volatility Deathmatch. What do you say?
Well, I'm always amused when somebody mentions my name on a panel or a podcast, and so I will take a listen, and I'm always up for a death match.
Two men can enter, only one can leave, sir. I don't know if you're ready for those stakes. Those are serious stakes.
I'd be happy to.
You might have to pound a few Cboe spicy pickles first to get yourself in the mood for a little bit of Vol Deathmatch. And then if that wasn't enough, Mr. Flowmaster, I said you were invoked not once but twice. Yesterday, out of the blue on my Options Bootcamp show, none other than the black-hatted one, Mr. Dan Passarelli, also invokes you because he brought up your sordid history as a raise bandit, sir. The only confessed raise bandit that I know of, sir. So we spent a lot of time lambasting you for taking 100 Delta options out of our pockets, sir.
That was right around the 1999-2000 .com bubble. It was kind of fun.
Yeah, fun for you. You still owe me probably a few 1,000 Delta buckets here or there that I probably got rammed down my throat. Why is the stock 3 handles against me? Curse you, Flowmaster. All right, with the team assembled, let's dive right on into the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the trading block.
All right, everybody, let's do it. Let's dive right on into a little bit of the old trading block, the portion of the show where we break down what the heck is trading out there. And you know what, listeners? It's another fun one where if you don't like what, I sound like a broken record at this point, but that's probably because it's true. At the end of the day, if you don't like what's going on in the markets, just wait 5, maybe 10 minutes these days, and you're probably going to be greeted with something else entirely. That's what's happening right now. We were mixed. We were looking like we might be heading red. Vol was starting to firm up, and now as we're kicking off the show, everything has swung ever so modestly to the green. A Dow up about 0.1%. Dow was getting sucked down hard earlier today off the news of yet again our former friends across the street, Boeing, once again just stepping into it with just another horrific aircraft disaster. It's been a bad run for them. Obviously, a terrible run for everyone who's impacted by this, but just wild times out there. But now the Dow apparently shrugging off that. I think it was down somewhere around 0.5% at one point. Now up nearly 0.1%. S&P was flirting with, did it want to go red? Did it go red? Was it below the 6,000? I don't think we got close to it. 6,006 looks like before bouncing up about 0.25% right now. Right around 15 handles on the day. So not a wild day, but not red either. NASDAQ up about 0.25% as well. And VIX cash was looking a little bit firmer earlier in the session. We got up to nearly a 1887, a wild year. Who doesn't remember all the things that happened in 1887? Wild year, listeners. But now we have retreated off that level back to about 1775. Also, very wild year. A much more wild year, I think, if you compare the two. But up about 0.75 point from where we were this time on the Monday show. Vol looking a little spicy again as well. Back up over the par strike. Of course, that was as of a few minutes ago. If I re-rack it, we might be back. Now, it's about 102. We were at 103. Now we're at 102, so up 12 points from where we were on the Monday show. So vol and also a little bit of VIX cash showing you maybe there's a little bit of spice left. Of course, we do have the ongoing drama with the trade war. It's on again, it's off again. We hate everyone, we love everyone. Middle East drama. Of course, it's a day that ends in Y. Sprinkle in, of course, an airline disaster, a few other things. And we got the heady stew, not to mention all the economic numbers. We got the heady stew that makes up the market today. Let's go around the horn. Let's start with the Rays bandit himself, perhaps a future participant, a gladiator in a volatility death match himself. Mr. Flowmaster, sir, what's catching your eye in the markets today, sir?
Well, it is a little interesting, as you said. I actually was just looking at something we have a prototype of, which basically takes the VIX change apart and breaks it into how much is from the at the money vol moving versus the wings versus, just kind of the slightly out of the money. And so, we're not up that much, but we are higher. And to have an up day with vol up, you really do kind of have to go dig into it and try to figure out if there's any directional sentiment to it. And today it's actually kind of interesting that it's the far out of the money puts and then the out of the money puts kind of seem to have the bid, and those out of the money calls are really actually looking a little bit lower, and at the money zone is relatively flat. So it's an interesting, people that study the VIX and Dr. VIX is probably the true authority. It's coming from a spectrum of options around the 30-day term, and so it's one number, but it really is pretty cool to look at it and go, well, actually, it's higher, but not where the at the money options are. It's kind of directionally telling us downside is a little bit of a focus right now. And the market's kind of we're not quite at all-time highs, but we're not far off of them, and there's still a lot going on, and when VIX was kind of in the 16 zone, even my colleague Mandy Zhu was on Bloomberg yesterday, and she kind of mentioned, it is kind of there's still a lot of nervousness about people waiting for the next tweet or the next truth to hit the wires. So realized vol has actually been kind of around 7 or 8% for the last few days. So market's really not going anywhere. We're hanging out at very high levels. There's some interesting moves out there and some sector allocations that are going on. But it's kind of it's just kind of like a middling kind of day. Volume's pretty good. Yesterday we were close to like almost 59 million contracts. Today's a little bit lighter, looking more like 48 million. But just looking around for some interesting things to trade.
Looking around indeed as we head on out to the hinterlands of Chicago, where we are joined once again by Mr. Uncle Mike Tosaw. Uncle Mike, sir, maybe there's a vol death match in your. I don't see you as quite the death match kind of guy, but I don't know. Maybe when I hear you getting angry about some trivia responses, I could see a little bit of death match guy there. What are your thoughts about being a vol death match participant down the road, sir? And then what else is catching your eye in this market today, sir?
I respect the titans of the vol death match. Those are the gladiators in our business. And there's certain things that I'm more than happy to get in the ring with. If you want to discuss perhaps when to close out short options, 60-40 tax treatment, covered call strike price selection, bring it on. I'll get in a death match with anyone on such topics. But a vol death match, not quite my cup of tea. And let's face it, Mark, I'm a lover, not a fighter.
Unless it involves 80s trivia, then you get kind of spicy, sir.
No, not at all. I mean, it's all about sportsmanship, doing the right thing, and that's just the way it's got to be. So
listen to the Monday episode if you want to hear the spicy version of Uncle Mike, listeners.
No, I don't know what you're talking about, Mark. I think you're telling the audience fabrications, and don't think that's true. I'm a good sport. Win, lose, or draw. That's just the way that I try to roll, especially with Trivial Pursuit games. But with that being said, in terms of what's happening in the marketplace right now, it seems like we have two magnet levels that are just fascinating me at this stage. 6,000 on the S&P and 200 with Apple. Apple just can't seem to get away from that 200 mark. It's at 199 today. Can't quite go down, can't quite go up, just kind of wants to sit there and hang out at 400. The stock of the day that's really catching my eye continues to catch my eye on a day when the market is actually only up 0.3%. Microsoft, old Mr. Softy, one of the biggest companies in the world. It's up 1.5% on the day. And when Microsoft moves, it's kind of a big deal. So that stock continues to just go higher. And that's one of those stocks. We actually have it in our covered call program. We actually sold a call spread on Microsoft. I'm glad we sold a call spread on Microsoft because that's a stock that I'm glad we didn't cap any upside on. So we lucked out with that one, that's for sure. So that's a stock that's catching my eye. Check in with the NVIDIA Palantir fight, if you will. NVIDIA seems to be taking the lead. The reason that I do follow those stocks is, well, number one, we had a feud on the option block with that. They had their own volatility death match that they're a part of. But number two, I think these are phenomenal collar stocks, folks. I know that I'm a typical, more of a conservative guy when it comes to the option space, but NVIDIA and Palantir, I think they're absolute gems to do collars on. Stocks like that are amazing, awesome, wonderful, and super to do collars on. So I do follow them. And if you want something more conservative, those are names with which you can look at. And if you collar them, you have a really good risk reward a lot of times. If you like the stock, of course. If you don't like the stock, then it's an awful trade to do. But that's definitely something that's catching my eye. Silver is flat on the day, so we're not getting a lot of movement there in the shiny stuff. Gold's up a little bit. GLD up 1% on the day. We do have a little bit, some buyers in the bond space. So my hope of the whole world buying bonds and forcing interest rates on mortgages to go from 7% down to 2% or 2.75% again. Probably not going to happen, but we took a step in the right direction today. So with that, that is what I'm seeing today in the marketplace.
All right, everybody, let's get out there and see what's lighting up the tape. Maybe we'll talk a little vol deathmatch. Maybe the Flowmaster, our chat's excited. They seem to think that the Flowmaster, I guess it's official. Our chat has decided that you have accepted the challenge. The glove has been thrown, and you have picked it up, Mr. Flowmaster. So, I don't know. Perhaps we might have another vol deathmatch in our future. I think the Flowmaster just wants to see himself on our Twitter dressed as a gladiator saying, "Are you not entertained?" I think that caught your eye. Did it not, Mr. Flowmaster?
You know, I used to have a suit of armor that I found on the sidewalk in New York City that I kept in the basement of the building for a while. I got to see if it's still down there.
You found it on the streets of New York City? Well,
yeah.
I'm sure that was very clean and wholesome. Just a suit of armor. 3 men died in it, but it's okay. It's found it on the street.
Yeah.
You can wear it. I'll tell you what, if we do the death match, you'll have to wear that street-worn suit of armor. Maybe a guy was changing shifts at medieval times and he forgot his suit of armor on the way out on the subway. I don't know. Either way, wild stuff, listeners. There's wild stuff out there in the market today. You know, VIX likes itself a good intraday whipsaw. Today, not the wildest of whipsaws out there, but you know what? It's making for some spicy paper. VIX finally kind of waking up out of the gate after a long period of just kind of sleepy malaise out there. The ADV, 707,000 contracts, so ticking up ever so slightly over the past week. I think we were around 680, somewhere in that ballpark. Today, over 500,000 contracts already, 537. So we're looking kind of spicy out here today, listeners. The big dog out there today, 62,000 of the July 17 puts. I just went and checked, and they were trading for prices around, looks like 45 cents, a big block of them. One block of 30,000 for 45 cents, one block for 49. Let's just say 45 cents for the sake of argument out there. Listen, what do you think? July expiring on the 16th, 17 puts, 45 cents. You down for a little bit of that action, a buyer or a seller? Tell you what, our producers will put out a little fun flash poll for you folks. We'll see what you have to say about those. But that's the big dog out there. I'm looking here. I don't see any spread legs against it. Just seems straight up 17 strike between 45 and 50 cents. Are you down, listeners? And then we got number 2. We got the June 21.5 calls. By the way, of course, there is OI on those 17 puts, so could be closing. But if past is prologue, probably someone rolling a little bit of them bones for some more downside and vol. We are heading into the start of summer, listeners. Typically, outside of tweet season, it is typically not a rock'em sock'em period for vol. 36,000 for number 2 of the June 21 half calls. Those are all opening, so that's some new paper out there. 19, almost 20,000 of the June 20s for number 3, 18,000 of the June 22s for number 4, and 15,000 of the July 26s for number 5. So a little bit of spice to kick us off out there in VIX land. Is SPY following suit? The answer is yes, looking pretty decent. 4.75 million. The ADV only 8.75 million. So definitely on its way to hitting that today out there, which is good. Most of the major indices have been kind of languishing a little bit on the volume department. They could use a little shot in the arm. Same goes for VIX. We haven't been north of 2 million at this portion of the show for a while. 2.05 million right now. The ADV about 3.5 million. So the S seems on path to hit its ADV today as well, if not exceed it out there. So all we needed was a little bit of mild whipsaw action, and maybe an aircraft crash and some trouble in the Middle East and another dust up in the trade war and some spookage about inflation. You needed all that together, and we're getting a little bit of volume out of the gate today. Small caps, IWM 650 on the tape today. That also looks pretty good. We see the ADV is 1.2 million, so right on pace there. And the Qs, 2.06 million. The ADV a little bit shy of 4. We usually expect a little more from the Qs, but it's not nothing over there on the Q side at the end of the day. So it seems like they're probably going to hit their number as well. So across the board, decent start out of the gate, and VIX coming out hot, which we haven't seen in a while, which is interesting. Is it hot? Is it spicy on our single name most active top 10 list today, listeners? The answer is no. It's I wouldn't even really qualify it as, it's, I guess, technically respectable. I guess technically north of 250 is respectable. And this barely makes that at 268 out there. It gets us to our old pal Palantir. Got some fun names in there today. It's not just the usual suspects, even though Palantir certainly qualifies as the usual suspects these days. 268 for number 10. It's Palantir. 135.75 off about 70 cents, which, as we all know, is a 1 second rounding error in Palantir. Come back in 2 minutes. It can be 10 handles away. Number 9, the Amazonians, 289, 212.60 off about 60 cents for them today as well. And the number 9 spot. Number 8, the Monster, looking a little bit less monstrous, 386 in the third, off 80 cents. Man, that MSTU, I've been joking about it for a while. Check out our crypto rundown on Monday, listeners. How long have I been calling that product the product for crypto degenerates? Well, apparently there's a lot more degenerates out there than I thought. Over 100,000 contracts, 140,000 contracts going up on Monday. A 90,000 lot. I believe it was the Dees 9 halves going up out there for, I think, around 2.5, 2.75, somewhere in that ballpark. Just wild stuff out there. MSTU, I guess for a lot of you, MicroStrategy, MSTR is just too boring. You need the levered MSTR. So MSTU, a product for degenerates. And apparently there's a lot more of you out there. The Monster coming in at number 8 today, 343 on the tape. Number 7, our former friends across the street, 205.25, off 8.25, a little over 4%. Let's see, what was their low today? The low was 201.25. So they're exactly $4 above that low now. Just another bit of tragic news coming out of Boeing. Their planes seemingly beset with problems. I think this one was no survivors right off the runway, a minute off takeoff, crashing. That is tragic and terrible. And the stock feeling it, even though the rest of the market seems to have shrugged this off now. Boeing number 7, 350 on the tape. If you see Boeing in the top 10, 9 times out of 10, it's something terrible that got them there. It's very rarely. Recently, we saw, I think there was a deal and some concessions, and they had a little pop, and we saw Boeing in there then. But that was a rare occurrence. It is usually, unfortunately, something like this, a very terrible disaster that brings them to the number 7 spot today, 350 on the tape. Number 6 at SoFi, 442, $15 exactly. SoFi, if you're wondering on the year now, it's pretty much unched. It's up nearly $1, about 6%. So I guess it's slightly up. But it was down to $9.50 back on April 8th, so it has rallied nicely from there. Kicked off the year 14.13. The high for this year was 18.42, not quite there either. SoFi, number 6, 442 on the tape. Number 5, it's the Fruit Company. Oh, they just broke the 200 level. I guess they apparently finally can. They seemed like they were glued forever to the 200 level. In fact, we had that poll not too long ago. Sell them or buy them for $18. Dees 200 puts. I'll have to go check where they're trading right now. Listen, a lot of you wanted to sell them. 182, is that your magic level? for Apple. Either way, $199.25 today, up half a buck. Good for $5.67. And the number 5 spot. Number 4, it's Oracle. They had earnings. I mentioned earlier this week that they are pretty much for me at least, kind of the tail end of earnings season. Once they announce, that's kind of it for the big names out there that people pay attention to. 201 having a good little run today, up 24.5 bucks or 14%. So spoiler alert, their numbers were good. My goodness, very good. Record high, cloud optimism. Yeah, folks liking themselves. A little bit of Oracle today. Number 4, $5.94. Oracle usually sleepy, not usually a top 10er today. Knocking the cover off the ball. Number 3, all the way up at number 3. We got some GameStop. You know things are going well when GameStop's at number 3, listeners. It's kind of like Boeing. It can make it up there for some good moves to the upside, but a lot of times it's some aggressive downside moves. That's what we're seeing today. Number 3, $8.89 on the tape for GameStop. That's a hefty day for GameStop. $21.70 off $6.90, about 24% for GameStop. My goodness. That's a rough one. They're talking about issuing bonds to buy Bitcoin. Where have I heard that one before? What can go wrong with that idea? Wow. Convertible bonds. Oh, so they're going to dilute some stock and buy Bitcoin. Well, there you go. The market voting with its dollars, and they're getting the hell out of Dodge. Number 3, GameStop, $8.89 on the tape. That means number 2 and number 1, what are they? I'll give you 3 seconds to guess what's number 2. Is it Tesla or Nvidia? 3, 2, 1. Yep, it's Tesla. 1.54 million. 320, 125. That would be something. 325.38. Off around $2 or about 0.5% today for Tesla. Good for the number 2 spot, 1.54 million. And the number 1, the big dog, even though kind of light today, only 1.69 million on the tape. That's Nvidia, 144 in the third, up about $1.50 or 1% today. Good for 1.7 million contracts out there. Like we mentioned, it was a decent week, one of the last decent weeks on the earnings calendar before we reset and try it all again in a few weeks. GameStop was Tuesday after the bell. Chewy before the bell on Wednesday. Oracle last night after the bell. Today before the bell, everyone's favorite, Lovesac. The market just hangs on all things Lovesac. And then after the bell today, we have Adobe. And then tomorrow, everyone's psyched for Money Hero, of course. But now everyone's really psyched for the odd block, so let's get to it.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the odd block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Odd Block, where we get weird, we get wild. Mr. Flowmaster, our chat is all abuzz with 2 things. First off, have you officially accepted the challenge, Russell's challenge to a Vol Deathmatcher? Have you picked up the gauntlet, sir, now that it has been thrown?
Well, I don't know if I know exactly what is involved.
That's the best part. No one knew until we did it this Tuesday what a Vol Deathmatch was.
Well, I like Russell a lot, so anything that it is interacting with him, I'm going to say yes to.
Interacting or perhaps vying against him in a desperate struggle for supremacy where only one of you can emerge unscathed, that counts for you, sir? Okay, good. Then I will make a note. Listeners, you heard it. The Flowmaster is down. Perhaps we'll have to go see who survived the first Vol Deathmatch, but if there was a survivor, perhaps they'll be willing to get into the ring with Mr. Flowmaster. They're also all a Twitter of your suit of armor that was on the street in New York. They want to know more. They say some homeless guy was wearing it, and then they offered him a job on Wall Street, so he left it behind, and now he's slinging OJ futures, which is a callback to our futures show from yesterday where we talked about just don't trade OJ, listeners. Futures options, stay away from it. It's a disaster. But that said, Mr. Flowmaster, let's see if you got some disasters for us today. Let's go out to this one. I I forget what the hell the name is of this Rocket Mortgage, Rocket Holdings, Rocket Companies. There's like 15 different Rocket variants out there. This is Rocket Companies, ticker symbol RKT, $13.96, up about a quarter of a buck or about 2% today. So a decent day for them. On the year, they're still struggling to regain some ground that they lost. They're off about a buck or about 6%. They got as high as 21 and a third back in August of last year. So they kind of did the opposite. When everyone else got annihilated in August, they rallied in August, which is kind of interesting. So they hit their high for the year in August. Then they hit their low for the year at the beginning of the year, January 10th, 10 bucks pretty much exactly. Kind of a weird inversion of a lot of the rest of the market. And then tried climbing up. They got up to about 15 bucks again in March before falling out of bed back to this time May 9th, not April 8th, but May 9th, $11 again. And then they've rallied since then back to where they're at now, almost 14 bucks. So it's been a wild ride in Rocket, Mr. Flowmaster. What caught your eye?
Yeah, so I saw kind of a funky trade and had to actually go to a broker on the Philly to double check. But so what I saw was total option volume in Rocket is 47,000 contracts today. That's 3 times normal, and it's almost 10 times the put volume. So it's very lopsided looking. And it's basically 2 big blocks. The August 16 calls, 10,000 of those for 70 cents. And 10,000 of the August 18 calls, 32.5 cents. But weirdly, they did not print it as a spread. They trade on the Philly. And then around the same time, there is 2,500 of the Augie 12 put. So I asked him if this was possibly a call stupid, because they did trade above Theo value on both of those call blocks. And he actually confirmed that it was a ratio call collar. So they bought that call spread, the 16, 18, 10,000 times, and they sold those Augie 12 puts. So it is a bullish directional trade. All 3 legs open. Stock's at around $14 now. It was around $13.85 at the trade time. The average daily volume in this thing is only 28,000 contracts. So to put on one trade that itself is over 20,000 contracts is pretty big. And it looks like somebody's looking for Rocket to climb higher, I guess.
A little bullish risk reversal action out here in Rocket, listeners. You down for that? A little AUG 16, 18 against the puts there, listeners. Interesting. We don't see a lot of size bullish. I like a good bullish risk reversal. You don't see a ton of them for size. Maybe someone thinking Rocket poised for another rocket ship move to the moon here. Listen, you down with a little Rocket, all the various incarnations of Rocket that we've talked about over the years. Listen, yeah, that was the 16-18 against the 12 puts. So, not getting crazy daring with the puts. I guess the stock's $13.85, so they're not even $2 away. But, you're not talking super wild with the puts. So I guess if you're down for a little Rocket, I can get behind some of that action out there. Let's keep on rolling. This is another one. Haven't talked about it in a little while. This was a favorite on Options Oddities for a while, about a year or so ago. We talked about it a lot with the Rock Lobster was big on this one as well. This is Nuscale Power Corp, ticker symbol SMR. Show you how much this thing has moved in the last year and change, listeners. It wasn't that long ago. It felt like we were talking about trying to sell the 7.5 puts for, I think, around 50 cents and being a little concerned about it because the stock had been much lower. And then lo and behold, the stock today, listeners, $42.42, up another 82 cents today, or 2%. This one has been the beneficiary of all just the largesse that has poured into the nuclear power industry over the last year with AI and everything else. Every time there's a headline in all things nuclear, this name pops. It was $8.45 a year ago. So that sounds about right. I think that's when around the time we were trying to sell those 7.5 puts and kind of sweating it a little bit. Got down to, looks like, around 8.19 at that time frame. So interesting stuff. Obviously, in hindsight, wouldn't have minded having some of that stock put to you. It was even trading below $7. It got down to $6.98 back in September of last year. So it could have been that time frame as well. Either way, it's had multiple legs up. It got up to $30 back in November. Then it drifted back down. April 8th got back down to $12.60. So once again, if you're lamenting having missed it, you had 2 bites of the apple. got back down to $12 in April. That was, of course, also on the tail end of all this, deep seek out of China. Maybe the AI power demand was overstated. A lot of those nuclear names took it on the chin. Since then, it's had multiple legs up, including a recent one. It was $31 exactly a week ago. It has rallied another $11 and change since then. So it's just been a wild run here for SMR. Mr. Flowmaster, I'm going to go out on a limb and you're going to say you found someone who bought some calls. Am I crazy, sir?
Well, I did. I have never traded this name. I was just at a conference this morning up at UBS, and their analyst was actually showing a pretty interesting pie chart of what portion of the equity market is retail by their estimate, and kind of how that's changed over the years. And basically, you've gone from around a quarter of the market being retail to closer to 40% of the market being retail. This is in stocks, not options. And at the same time, volume has grown almost as strongly in the underlying stocks as it has in the options world. And she actually mentioned, she's like, yeah, you don't want to assume that retail doesn't know what they're doing, or maybe just that maybe they don't know what they're doing, but they're big enough that things are going to move around. So, and I don't know, to see a stock go from $10 to $40 in a matter of months, we usually look at that and say, well, that something seems a little bit funky. But this one was actually, the trade happened yesterday. It was a buyer 2,600 of the 50 strike calls expiring in July for $235. Around 10 a.m., stock was 39. Those options closed at 330, so they're up about 40% or $250,000 on a $600,000 premium trade. So it's a decent sized trade. It's not a retail trade, but it's possible that that retail kind of looking at the momentum and the stories that some of these stocks, and if they're AI adjacent, like or cloud adjacent, like the nuclear power industry is right now, they certainly can get swept up. So, just that was just a big one. But looking at it, obviously when a stock makes a move like that, it attracts interest anyway. But it's had some pretty heavy days. June 6th it traded 40,000 calls. Yesterday the 45,000 calls total. I think this one's probably going to stay hot for a while. It's up a little bit more today. I assume it's at all-time highs up here, like 42, 42. That might just be kind of like a fun one to look for some spots to jump in and maybe just play it for some further upside.
Further upside indeed. Speaking of further upside, perhaps the furthest, let's get out to this one we spotted today. We were just talking about Oracle, kind of the semi-official wind down name for earnings season, listeners. Nothing winding down about this name today. Like we said, popping 24, almost 25 handles, nearly 14%, trading 200, right around 200, 201 right now. And folks are feeling the animal spirits for Oracle today is all I'm saying, listeners. Because what did we spot this morning? Obviously, there was a tsunami of paper. Oracle is in our top 10 for a reason. But this little nugget caught our eye out here today, listeners. This morning, someone came in. Again, the stock was 197.5 when this order came in. And they said, hey, not the AUG 200s, which would make some sense, close to that. Not even the 205s or 10s or 15s or 20s, anything like that. AUG 250s, 250s. How are they? They got 48 cents at 58 cents. So a decently tight market for a pretty far out of the money call in a name like Oracle. So yeah, kind of interesting, a dime wide. They said, you know what, 58 cents sounds good to me, good sir. I will take 3,000 of those for 58 cents. Again, just a wild print. 50 handles out of the money, listeners. That's a wild one. That's one we're gonna have to put out to you folks, I think, as well. Another flash poll on that one. Would you be down for paying 58 cents for the AUG 250s in Oracle? I got a feeling a lot of you would sell those, or at the very least, do it as a bit of a buy right and say, hey, if I got to dump my stock 50 handles higher, oh, poor me. So yeah, 58 cents lifting the offer. Mr. Flowmaster, there was a tsunami of paper in Oracle today, so you probably didn't see these. But this one just kind of stood out to us as a, wow, that is an intriguing print, sir. What say you? 250 by AUG expiration, sir?
Well, yeah, I wasn't paying much attention to Oracle today, but I mean, it's pretty impressive. Stock up 13%, and the straddle was just 7%. So that's a heck of a move. And I'll tell you, even though those calls, 50 points away seems, awfully high, they are trading for 73 cents right now. So 75.
There you go. He's the genius.
Exactly. So, it doesn't have to get there for people to make some money, especially if it's, a little bit longer dated like this. So I don't know. I'm impressed. That's a big move. It's funny where we really are kind of, I think the sentiment is that we're out of the woods, which is interesting, right? Because the tariffs aren't settled and the trade war is not settled. And as you mentioned before, there's some global macro, economic and humanitarian issues, but the market doesn't really care. And, it's one of these things like, you can come into work and just, you read some bad headlines and heard some news and you just feel like, oh man, things are just not good out there. I really feel like leaning short. And, you get a little bit of a reality check, which is, the market doesn't usually care. I'll tell you, I vividly remember watching January 6th in our offices on 17th Street. And, the footage was insane and terrifying. And yet the futures kind of waffled around and then they went up. And we just were like, well, you know what? You can't really try to applying emotion to the market. Doesn't work. So in this case, hey, you know what? There really is. We seem to be in a risk-on kind of mode, and look at the move we had today. It would only take a couple more of those moves to get right up to that strike, and then they'd be looking at some real P&L.
Yeah, if they're trading 70 odd cents right now, he's laughing all the way to the bank right now. He is the winner, whether he's insane or not. He can get out of them for money today. So if the Rock Lobster he was here, he would say, hey, he's winning right now. If the initial print goes your way, then it's looking good. Now, obviously, you got to August, and once this euphoria dies down today, going to be a different story. But at least for right now, he can get out for a little bit of money, and that's not nothing for a trade on an option that is 50 handles out of the money with only a couple of months to go. But we got some more show to go, so let's head right on into the mail block.
It's time to take your seat on the all-star panel as we read your emails, tweets, Facebook messages, website comments, and much more. It's time for the Mail Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Mail Block, the portion of the show where you folks take the reins, your questions, your comments, your insights, your pearls of wisdom. Right now, it's going hot and heavy. We posted this a few minutes ago, those VIX July 17 puts for 45 cents. They printed 30,000 times today, total of 60,000, prices around 45 to 50 cents. We said, hey, at those prices, are you a buyer or a seller? Our audience can't make up their mind. 46.7% right now want to buy them. 53.3% want to sell them out there. So I guess that's what makes a market. So interesting stuff out there. I could see arguments for both, which again is what makes a market. We'll come back to those Oracle 250s. We just posted that like literally a minute ago out here. But let's get out to our actual questions of the week. Well, we'll pay off a couple from last week first as well. We talked about some VIX SEP 20 puts trading last week. They were trading for size now nearly 240, 238. It was part of a spread, but we said, hey, just that one leg, SEP 20 puts, 238. Are you a buyer or a seller? 55.6% of you wanted to buy them. 44.4% wanted to sell them. So again, kind of a split market on that one. We also talked about from our crypto rundown show earlier this week, that massive print, 91,000 of the MSTU, D9 calls. I was right, they're around 275. That was a huge print. We said at that price, are you a buyer? Are you a naked seller? Are you a covered call seller? So you want to buy the underlying, sell the call, or you just say the hell with that, MSTU is for degenerates. And 56.3%, we had only 2 answers. I thought this was hilarious. 56.3% of you want to straight buy them. And 43.8% of you say MSTU is for degenerates. I can get behind that one, but clearly there's a lot of degenerates out here who love slinging some MSTU out there, which gets to we have 2 active polls. We have with the flash polls from today, it adds even more, but we have a fun flash poll from yesterday that I want to get Uncle Mike's thoughts on as our resident strategy block guy here on the show. We discussed yesterday on Options Bootcamp because we were talking about forgotten options terminology, and we got into a little bit of a debate about ratio spread versus back spread. I say ratio spread. Dan says back spread. I say that is archaic nonsense terminology. But we put it out to our audience. I think ratio spread is far more informative as to what the hell you're actually trying to do. Back spread, whenever you say back spread, people always say, what is that? And so you have to spend a lot more time explaining it. And then front spread, annoying archaic terms. We should kick them to the curb. But we thought we'd put it to our audience. Which term do you prefer? Which one do you use more in your trading? Ratio spread or back spread? Mr. Uncle Mike, do you have a vote? And then B, which way do you think our audience is going on that one? And then also, just for fun, another one that was inspired by our Options Bootcamp show. Mr. P coming up with 2 questions of the week for us this week. We had a fun debate last week on the show about people talk about crypto and Bitcoin as kind of end of the world assets. And yet we kind of joked on that show, how are you going to use your Bitcoin? You can't really access your wallet. No power, no cell service, certainly. Kind of challenging to access your Bitcoin. So we said, hey, along those lines, what is the best apocalypse asset? Is it your traditional gold or precious metals? Is it more portable wealth, even like diamonds or precious stones? Is it the aforementioned Bitcoin, or is it the ultimate hard asset for the apocalypse, aka bullets? Mr. Uncle Mike, where do you stand on the ratio spread versus back spread debate? Where do you stand on your favorite apocalypse asset? And then where do you think our audience is lining up, sir?
All right. Well, let's take that one further. I believe it was MSTU, I think you had said. I think that's for crazy people, so I'm staying out of that one.
I'm with you. That's a pretty wild product.
Yeah. So what's that? Montana State University? I think that's what MST.
That's exactly what that is.
So yeah, stay away from Montana State. But if you ever do want to see some great comedy, do a YouTube on the Montana, I believe it's the Montana Tech football coach from like 8 or 9 years ago. Funny, he could be an amazingly funny stand-up comedian as a football coach. Now that's a bit of useless knowledge for you, but if you ever want to see some football coach comedy, this guy's the best. Anyway, with that, I would say that in terms of ratio spread or back spread, well, I'm a third party on this one. If I'm selling more contracts than I'm buying, then I refer to it as a ratio front spread. If I'm buying more contracts than I'm selling, then I refer to it as a ratio back spread. So I think that you need to be descriptive, because if you do say a back spread, people are going to say, what the heck is that? And if you say a ratio spread, people are going to say a back spread or a front spread. So I believe in being descriptive to people as an options educator of nearly 20 years. Ratio back spread, ratio front spread. That is my preference on the matter. And in terms of the apocalypse, man, I'm invested in bullets. That's the only thing that you're going to be able to use if we have an apocalypse. That's what I'm well vested in. And yeah, so those are my thoughts.
You can't see him right now, listeners. Uncle Mike has 2 bandoliers of bullets on him as we speak. You never know when he's going to need to negotiate with some lead. So he's ready for the apocalypse at all times. Uncle Mike. All right. Speaking of weapons and things, Mr. Flowmaster, you have completely derailed our chat with your street-worn suit of armor. They want to see photos of it, first off. They want to see photos of this armor. So you might have to tweet it out, Mr. Flowmaster, at the very least in preparation for your upcoming Vol death match. Option God says, it's disgusting, yet funny. I understand it, but I wouldn't have touched it with the 10-foot pole. Nickel says he can't believe you picked up anything from the streets of New York, let alone wore it. And then they all want to see pictures of the armor, Mr. So first off, Mr. Flowmaster, do you have any photos of the armor you can share with us?
I'm gonna have to look around. I'm a little worried that it went into the basement in my apartment building and disappeared. But I will tell you that the end of the month is when you walk around New York City looking at what people are putting out on the street, because a lot of people move out of their apartments and they can't take stuff with them. So, and you know, in the fancy neighborhoods in the city, you see some pretty nice stuff.
A suit of armor.
Now that's some street knowledge people can use.
Yeah,
I like that.
Exactly.
If I'm ever homeless in New York City, or if I ever just need a couch and I'm living in New York City, I know what to do.
Back with that, if I'm gearing up for my next Vol death match, and I'm trolling the streets, looking for my next suit of armor, maybe a nice broadsword to go with it, and I'll be good to go. Mr. Flowmaster, same questions for you, sir. Where do you fall, back spread or ratio spread, or do you do the old political Uncle Mike, a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B? And then B, what is your preferred, when you're putting on your suit of armor in preparation for the apocalypse, what is your preferred apocalypse asset to go with it? Is it gold, diamonds, Bitcoin, or bullets, sir?
Well, it's a great question. I like ratio spread more than back spread because I can never remember what the heck back spread means. So ratio spread, at least you have a little bit of a clue that the sizes are going to differ. It's funny. I have a very good friend who I traded with for years, and he at some point shifted from buying puts to buying MREs. So meals that you can put in your garage for decades, and shotgun shells. So then that really was, I'm not kidding. He said, you know what, I get all nervous and I start buying puts and I lose money on those puts. He's like, now I'm just going to, if I get nervous, I'm just going to buy survival gear. So I would kind of go with that. I absolutely agree that I don't think Bitcoin's going to help you if we have some sort of real calamity. Maybe some gold would be useful, but you know what? I think, I don't know, probably land that's far away from cities would be my choice.
And a nice suit of armor to guard it all with, right?
There you go.
Right now, first off, our audience is going hard for the ratio spread. I knew we had a smart audience, but this is just proof of it. Who says back spread? Just a wild, crazy person. So ratio spread, 94.1%. If you say that 9 times out of 10, people know what the heck you're talking about out there, listeners. Back spread, only 5.9% of you. So a couple of heathens floating around in the audience out there. And then we've got, for the apocalypse asset right now, bullets running away with it, 58.7%. 30.4% for number 2, going the traditional hard asset of gold. Gold can have 2 uses in the apocalypse. It's kind of heavy if you got a big bar of it. So worst case, something goes down. You can also hit a zombie or 2 with that big bar of gold. So it has double utility, dare I say it, in an apocalypse. 8.7% for bullets, only 2.2% for the old school portable wealth of diamonds and precious stones. Maybe all that lab grown fun eating into that diamond love out there. Let's do one more quick check-in on our flash polls as well. I wanted to give a couple of minutes for that new one to get out there. And right now, the Oracle 250s for 58 cents. 33.3% of our audience wants to sell them, but as part of a covered call, I can get behind that. If you're down for a little Oracle, letting a little ride to the upside makes sense. 50% want to straight buy them. And then 16.7% want to be naked sellers of Oracle 250s. You folks have some cojones right now as we keep on rolling and go around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, everyone, welcome to Around the Block, the portion of the show where we tell you what we're keeping an eye on until our next appearance on the old OB. Mr. Uncle Mike, we'll start with you, sir. What are you keeping an eye on till the Monday episode?
6,200. Want to continue to watch those numbers with the S&P and Apple, because Apple's kind of a big deal. Continuing to watch bonds and, as always, watching social media in case somebody says something. That seems to be a big deal these days, too.
It does seem to be a big deal. Mr. Flowmaster, same question for you, sir, as you're searching diligently for your suit of apocalypse armor now, sir. What are you keeping an eye on till your next appearance?
Well, I will be watching kind of, the macro scene for sure. We have a triple witching expiration next Friday. So I'm actually trying to put together a decent little OPEX report in response to a couple of customer inquiries. So that just kind of we can see how things stack up. And I do agree with Mike. There has been kind of some pulling towards our strikes. We pinned almost to 6,000 exactly on Friday, I think. So, when nothing's really going on, I think people get a little bored. They start punting around, and those big round numbers people really do pay attention to.
Uh-oh, you're going to feed the beast on triple and quad witching, sir. Interesting stuff.
Here.
Or maybe he's going to debunk it all, the Flow Master. We'll stay tuned. Unfortunately, not going to stay tuned for any more show, listeners. That music means we are done. Not done on the network today, though. No rest for the wicked. I'll be back in a little bit. Talking all things futures options on TWIFO with Scott from Prosper Trading Academy. Stay tuned for that. Should be a fun time. But before we go, let's go around the horn. Uncle Mike, sir, if folks want to discuss apocalypse assets or ratio spreads versus front/back spreads, or would you too pick up a suit of armor that was abandoned by a homeless person, where would you go? Where should they go? I should say, what should they do?
Well, there's not too many homeless people roaming the streets of St. Charles, but nonetheless, if we needed a suit of armor, I'll see what I can do. With that being said, go to stcharleswealth.com. Book an appointment with me. Would love to have a conversation with any of our listeners. Always enjoy talking to them if you're looking for a financial advisor who delves in the option space.
I could just picture a young flow master walking down the streets of New York, lost in his own thoughts, dreaming up crazy options flow, when he literally trips over a polished steel breastplate, and he looks down and says, "What is this? I must have this in my collection." And thus the Flowmaster armor collection was born, sir. Is that story even remotely accurate, sir? Please tell me it is.
Yeah, pretty much. It was it was about a block away from my apartment, and I was like, "What is that?" And sure enough, it was the body part, the gloves with the fingers, the whole thing. I was like, "No way, this is awesome!" And sure enough, I scooped it up.
Someone's mom said to their son, "You know what? You're done LARPing." And they threw out all of his sweet armor so he couldn't have any more battles in the park. And the Flowmaster said, "I will take that." Now he has begun his career as a live action role player. While you're setting that up, Mr. Flowmaster, if folks want to check out what you're cooking up on Quad Witching maybe next week, or any of the other cool stuff you have cooking in the land of Cboe, where should they go? What should they do?
So head over to Cboe.com/RMA. That's where we have our risk and market analytics platforms data. The OPEX report, I believe I will be able to get onto the Cboe Insights blog. So just Google that, and it will lead you right there.
Cboe Insights blog, good place to go for all the various musings of the Flowmaster and the rest of the crew. Of course, Cboe.com/RMA, the place to go to kick the tires and light the fires. You want to do some of your own fun Tesla downside scanning, see what's lighting up the tape out there in the markets today. Maybe fire up your own version of the Eye of Sauron. Cboe.com/RMA, the place to go to kick the tires and light the fires. Going to do it for us on the old OB. Back again in a little bit with This Week in Futures Options. And we're back again tomorrow on Volatility Views. Did Dr. Vix, did he even survive the Vol deathmatch to come back on Vol Views? Well, I guess we got to tune in to find out. And then who else will join us? Well, you got to tune into Vol Views to find out. After that, one final time, exclusively for our friends over there on the Pro. So if the Vol deathmatch wasn't enough to get you to go check out the Pro, make sure you're checking it out for oddities. There are literally a million other things up there, listeners, including, of course, Pro Q&As, options oddities, giveaways, live streams, all sorts of fun. Lots of exclusives from OIC and other places. The optionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go to learn more. And then we're back again on Monday, another episode of the Option Block. Stay safe out there, everybody.
The Option Block is brought to you by Cboe. Cboe's suite of S&P 500 index options, SPX and mini S&P 500 XSP options, allows traders to speculate on the direction of the market, generate income, and hedge for downside protection of their portfolio of stocks. No matter what kind of trader you are, there's plenty of useful information to take the guesswork out of creating your portfolio strategy and to help you make more educated moves in the market. Visit www.cboe.com/SPX today to learn more. The views expressed herein are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of Cboe Global Markets Incorporated or any of its subsidiaries, collectively Cboe. The information provided is for general education and information purposes only. There are important risks associated with transacting in any of the Cboe products or any of the digital assets discussed here. Before engaging in any transactions in those products or digital assets, it is important for market participants to carefully review the disclosures and disclaimers contained at www.cboe.com/US_disclaimers. These products and digital assets are complex and are suitable only for sophisticated market participants. These products involve the risk of loss, which can be substantial and, depending on the type of product, can exceed the amount of money deposited in establishing the position. Market participants should put at risk only funds they can afford to lose without affecting their lifestyle. You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.